And coming for this about some kind of a motivational discussion will be quite useful. So in the lab, we do once we found it to be quite useful. So I thought, let us have the session as a host. Motivate for something like this is totally different. But there is a similar motivation even for an undergrad, because I guess most of you are in undergrad programs. See, usually I've seen certain problems starts during the final semester of the student. I've seen many people, my own people who kind of masters the project, it's very hard to reach them. And when you ask them, they don't say much, but after a lot of prodding and cajoling, they say that they're very depressed or anxious about their future, what kind of they will get, what kind of admission they will get if they are applying for a job, way about the future. People say that's another issue, because in Indian social setting, the opinion we are, not only parents, it's a big extended families and family members, or uncles about you, what you're doing, what a child should be capable of, what the kid should be doing. So that puts enormous pressure. So see things working with the JEE exam. They build up for the exams way back in, sometimes even before. And from then on, it's like, you put the kid on a train, right? And then there's nothing else to do other than prepare for the JEE, and then you pass JEE and get into IIT. And your life is set for almost 10 years. You have no breather. And at the end of that, what happens? There's a huge you're supposed to top school in US or IIM, whatever. If you fail in any of that, all the build-up that was there for the last almost decade, right now comes into question, and you will start doubting all that. With this kind of things. So it's a very sorry situation. So what happens is, typically in our setup, hello, is the voice breaking? Are you able to hear?
Yes,
I
sir,
just
we
saw
can.
somebody commenting that. Okay.
It's breaking.
Yeah, I think for me also it is breaking. Like in between, it is breaking. Actually, I thought it was the problem with my side.
Okay. Okay. Let me know, because I don't know.
Yeah,
Sometimes even my
we'll observe
connection
it for
goes.
next 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So what happens is, in our social setting in India, where often life is completely when those faculty were a batch of students. This was first year student. Better consider the I asked her, mind, but my some relative, they it's not good. So I don't she applied, or she cancelled that attempt. But ultimately, she didn't get the branch and she continued in biotech. But at the end of the degree, she and a bunch of other students started a startup, which was a huge success. One of our first success stories was a startup from the department. So long after that, all this was over, I asked her once, do you remember you applied for this branch and this is what I asked you? She didn't even remember that. Right. So point is, if you live lives based on others' expectations, right, and if you fail those expectations, otherwise definitely you will be sad, you'll be depressed. But where is the need to live like this? Why can't one live a self-motivated and inspired life, like this guy, for example? Right, completely, boss of himself, no need to answer anybody, no need to please anybody, and he also goes and helps other people. Is it possible to live like that? What is stopping you? Why can't you be independent like that? Then obviously there are many reasons that stop people. Serious social constraint, for example. I mean, if a person can be from a middle class family, so not many opportunities for financial reasons. Right person can be from a certain religion or caste, or because therefore they are at certain disadvantage. Or they could be coming from a region or a city or a village which is quite backward and no facilities. Therefore, they are at a disadvantage. Or it could be a girl, and since it's a male-dominated society, there's a disadvantage. Or too much corruption. The system is bad. The system doesn't work. System is not fair. Our government is not creating enough jobs or whatever. There are lots of reasons. I mean, they're quite valid reasons, seemingly. But let us look at this. Right, I came from a middle class family. That didn't stop Srinivas Ramanujan, Abdul Kalam, Jack Ma, right, the Chinese billionaire and industrialist. I belong to a certain caste or religion. I'm at a disadvantage. Abdul Kalam, Ramnath Kovind, it didn't stop them. My region is backward. The Fogart sisters from a small village. I mean, to see in the movie Dangal. Male-dominated society. You can't think of more successful women, right, in public sphere. Chanda Kochar, ICICI Bank. Arundhati Bhattacharya, SBI, Indra Nui, Pepsi, right? These are really top women in their fields. Too much corruption. What did Session do? He was a nobody. He was a middle class person. He just literally took a stick in hand and started correcting the system, cleaning up the system. You don't have connections. No need. What about Ranveer Singh? This an artist, actor, right? He did really in a very top paid actor right now. He didn't come any acting families or anything. The government is not creating enough jobs. Just to give a counter example, a counter fact, within the IT system, there are more than 1,000 faculty jobs vacant. But this is actually a much bigger number because this is slightly old data and a lot of new IITs. So point is, very often what you think as a very serious, valid reason could be an excuse if you just look for a little bit data out there. Right. So here I want to quote Jack Ma, wherever there's an opportunity, there's a complaint, there's an opportunity. He keeps saying this to his members of his company. People come to him with some complaint, oh, this is not working, that's not working. Yes, if that is not working, you fix it. And that way you can do something productive. Something might come out of it. And so that's an opportunity for progress. Okay, so one thing that has to be done very early on, could be at the age of 15 years or 20 years, 25 years. It varies from person to person. Some people it never happens, unfortunately. Or some people, fortunately, happens at a bit later in life. One has to find out one's purpose in life. And that's a question that only you can answer, as a concerned individual can answer. The parents cannot tell that, explain, solve the problem for the child. The teacher cannot solve. The siblings cannot solve. They can have some ideas based on insight into the person's temperament and suggest something. But ultimately, you and you alone can find out what's your purpose in your life. In fact, if there is a single responsibility that you have in your life, it is this: to find your purpose in life. Without that, it's as though your real life hasn't even begun. You're still like kind of in a probation period. So what is that singular goal in life that really moves you, like that feels like, that draws you completely, absorbs you, feels like, where you feel like putting in all your energy and intelligence and naturally, spontaneously, without anybody telling you. What is that activity? What makes you tick? What is that? What is it that urges you to wake up in the morning? Right? Sometimes when you wake up in the morning, you start wondering, what's the point? Right? The day ahead is so boring. There's nothing that interests me. Right? If that is how it is, then you need to do something about it. What kind of works makes you not scared of Mondays? So there's a big kind of drama that people do about oh, it's Monday again, I have to go to work. And if the work is so bad, why do you do that work? Why can't you find a work which is more interesting and Mondays are not scary? Right? So the question, what is that work that you almost willingly do even without a salary? And ironically or paradoxically, the kind of job that you'll be willing to do even without a salary is actually the one which will pay you the highest. Why is that? Because that's the kind of job where you naturally excel. That's right for you. And when you excel in a job, obviously you'll get good remuneration. So finding the goal of life becomes, so for all these problems, the first question that you have to answer, first problem you need to solve before you do anything else. Find the goal of life. You need to have some kind of a motto, like a slogan. And even if you look at big companies, they all start with a very simple goal, and everything that they do is derived from that goal. Take, for example, the TED Talk company. Their goal is very simple: spread ideas, spread worthwhile ideas, inspiring, exciting ideas, informing, illuminating ideas in general society, general public. Right? Take, for example, Microsoft to bring personal computer to every home. Right? Take, for example, Google. It's even much very simple. I mean, it's really modest. To organize world's knowledge. This is Google's motto. It sounds so simple, so innocent. But I mean, look at what lies behind that very simple goal: to organize world's knowledge. Tesla, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. So these are huge goals clothed in very simple, innocent language. But that's what makes a great company. And same thing with even with individuals. Let me tell you a kind of a story of this kind, where a person found a goal for his life and really made it very big. So there was this 21-year-old boy who feels bad about trash in a big river, and this is a very common phenomenon, right? Everywhere. So he saw this, and then what did he do? Because there's no point asking this guy, that guy, writing to government offices, and nothing works. Probably he has tried all that and kind of got disillusioned. This guy was in a family that were dependent on rivers and things like that. So this guy took his 20-foot boat and just set out on the river and started collecting trash manually, personally. But I mean, after a few days or a few weeks, he gave up because it's a huge problem. I mean, talking about thousands of kilometers of river, how can one individual do that? So he realized very quickly that he needed help. So here I would like to quote from Sri Aurobindo: "If thy aim be great, thy means small, still act." Right? For by action alone, these things can accrue to thee. Generally, when the aim is very big, right, and your means is small, you won't even attempt, because you'll see the huge gap that separates your capacity and the goal, and the magnitude of the goal. But here, what Sri Aurobindo says is, but that's exactly why you still have to act. You have to go ahead and begin action. And what is interesting, the way life dynamics works, when you begin action, things will start happening. Your capacity starts growing. Your ability to achieve things starts expanding. Right. So you need to just take that first step forward and begin action. So this guy has approached government officials in the city and he was turned down. Right. So what did he do? He didn't get depressed and go back to his normal life. He took the phone book, right? And so this is like way back when we had those yellow phone books. He started looking up names of companies, and started with letter A. And he called up the first company and he said, I have this problem. There is huge river which requires a lot of cleaning and I need help. Can you give me some money? That's all. He goes straight ahead and went and just asked. So companies saw that this guy is quite sincere and genuine, and they gave him some money. Then he went to another company. Okay, so then the boy asked, "Can you give me some money?" And the company guy asked, "Who are you?" He says, "I want to clean the garbage in this river, whatever river that is." Then he says, "Can you show me a proposal?" It's like he's looking for a grant, right? So can you show me a proposal? This boy doesn't even know what a proposal is. He doesn't even know the procedure. How do you approach this? So then the company chap sits with this guy and then explains what a proposal is and how to write it, and helps him put together a proposal. Okay, so like that, he works towards his goal, and over 8 years, he raises $2.5 million, hired 4,000 people, right? Cleaned 1,000 miles of the river Mississippi in US, cleared millions of tons of debris. Now, point is, if you ask him, does he have a great career? Of course, he has a great career. I mean, he's running an organization which has billions of dollars revenue, and he has given jobs to so many people, and doing a huge task which is of great social relevance, right, social impact, and so on. What did he start with? Nothing. He didn't have anything. He only had a very strong will, a strong intention to do something. Maybe he had a 20-foot boat. That's all. That's all that he has. No connections, nothing. So he says, how do you change the world? Somebody asked him. He said, all you have to do is change your world. That's how the world changes. So whatever is right around you, if you change that little by little, slowly the whole world changes. I mean, that's how you begin this whole, this problem of world transformation. So another example, the story of a university professor. All right. So this person went to US, did PhD in economics, and came back to his country and started teaching economics. Okay, at that time, the country was in a very bad shape, and people were like this, like what's shown in the picture. There's serious famine and all that, starvation, people are dying. So he was started asking himself, I mean, I'm teaching economics in a country where people are literally dying of starvation. What is the relevance? What's the point of teaching economics when there's no money? So in a small village, in a small village, he saw this old woman making bamboo stools, right? And she makes a few rupees a day. But point is, this lady is all the time caught in a debt trap because she borrows money to make some stools, and if she's not able to sell them all, she is now in debt and borrows further money and so on and so forth. So she needed apparently about 15 rupees per day, right, to buy the bamboo, right? So or per month, I forget. This is long ago. So this professor and his student did a survey of the whole village. There are 42 people, hardworking and skilled people. So they need roughly about 2,000 people to give them to get them started. So this person gave the money out of his pocket and to the student and said, go and distribute this money to all those people. Only thing is, tell them that there's not he's not giving it for gratis. It's only a loan, and tell them they can repay whenever they can. There's no pressure. They can sell their wares wherever they can. So then the professor visited a university university branch of a bank, and saying, can you give these people loans? So these people laugh at him. How could you give to these very poor people loans? Because they're not credit worthy. They don't have a job. There's no ID, nothing. Right? They're literally on the streets, and how can they repay loans? So then he went to higher officials in the banking system. Nothing. Same thing repeats again and again. He offers himself as a guarantor. Then these people get some loans, and slowly he start getting. He was able to fetch bigger loans for these people. And every time these poor people were paying back the money, the loans, right, in completely. And so the experiment was extended to another village. But still, bankers are not sure because poor people are not reliable. That's all. That's their kind of a strong belief. Now the competition began with bankers and this professor. So he kept on convincing bankers to loan as much as they can. And this success was repeated in many villages, 10, 50, 100. Finally, instead of begging with them at every step, trying very hard to convince them, he said, why not create a separate bank just for this class of people, like very poor people, where you can give very small sums, like a few thousand rupees, a few hundred rupees. And that idea had led to the creation of the Grameen Bank. You might have heard about it. It serves 46,000 villages in Bangladesh, has more than 1,000 branches and 12,000 staff, lent more than $4.5 billion. Loan values can be very small, $12, $15, things like that. So it's a great impact on the society, and that is the person who did it is Muhammad Yunus, who was a Nobel Prize winner and for 2006. So point is, if you see people like this, they start from nowhere, right? They don't have any of these things that we talked about. They don't have these apparent concerns and what we think stops people, never stop them. They just had a strong intention. They had integrity. They were playing fair, right? And just went ahead with action. And things started slowly accruing, start building up, right? Where there were initially all walls everywhere, right? The path started opening up as they went forward. So you see that these people are all these people who succeed have certain standard, qualities. Let's look at a few of these qualities. The very first thing is they are proactive. They don't wait for some magic to happen before they can start. They don't look for some ideal time, when all the planets in the right position, their stars are all lined up. Or no, I'll wait until COVID is over. I'll wait until I finish graduation. I'll wait until I get married. I wait until I get divorced, whatever, right? Nothing. If there is an idea and it's a good thing to do, and just go ahead. And right, things will happen automatically, slowly over a period of time. Whereas I know people, I know actually a friend of mine, this guy, I haven't seen him for a long time, but he used to work in Canada earlier. He came for a brief visit to Chennai and he is a strong believer in astrology. Right? He had questions about his career and marriage. I don't know what he has done, but without an astrologer's approval, It's as though he won't even take a single step forward, right? I mean, such people, just you can imagine where they will land in life. Okay, so that's obviously there's a total opposite of the behavior of successful people. Proactive behavior means it's involving acting in advance of a future situation rather than just reacting to situation. So don't wait until something bad happens, right? You take a proactive step and go forward so that bad thing that you are imagining will never happen. So thing is, these people are not slaves of environment, and we have seen in neuroscience course that there's a syndrome called environment dependency syndrome, right? This Francois Hermite had this doctor had patients who are slaves to the sensory world. If they see a toothbrush, they'll just pick it up and start brushing. If they see a bed, they'll just jump on it and start sleeping, which is stupid. It's a disease that occurs because of damage to prefrontal cortex. But unfortunately, a lot of us actually live like that, right? If the environment permits us or moves us to do something, we'll do it. Otherwise, we'll just wait for some magic to happen until the stars are lined up. Whereas, so think if you are dependent on environment, the stimulus that you get from the environment decides your response. There's nothing in between. That's when we are like zombies. There is no decision maker between the stimulus and the response. Whereas, for a successful person, if you want to succeed, between stimulus and response, there has to be this conscious decision which can reject a response or choose from a bunch of existing responses or imagine a totally new response. But response is in your control. You are not fated to produce a certain standard response to a standard stimulus. Right. So this is a very important quality of a successful person. So one example of that, of being proactive, is again this guy called Afroz Shah. This video is there in YouTube. You can take a look at it. This guy is a young lawyer by profession. Right. Once he was staying in a hotel in Mumbai hotel in one of the skyscrapers, and you could see the sea from a distance. But thing is, next to the sea, you saw this white band-like structure. It's a very nice straight strip of white or grayish band. I was wondering, what is this band? I mean, is it a road? Doesn't look like a road because there are no cars on it, nothing. And then he came down the hotel and walked up close to this band. He saw it's all trash, right? A huge road of trash all along the beach, the coast. It was quite short. This was very recently, 2016. It's called Versova Beach. So he said, this is not fair. I mean, how can this be allowed to be like this? So he started writing to the municipal corporation authorities and all, of which they all say, we can't do anything. So then he decided, okay, let him just start getting some spade and some buckets and all that, start clearing the debris. We are talking about 9 million kgs of trash, but he began like, at that point, one bucket, one spade. And then he slowly started talking to people who live in the neighborhoods. Right, he went to nearby schools and madrasas and he said, look, this is a problem. This trash is bad for your health. Right, you're all living very close to it. Why don't we all do something? Right, instead of saying you do something, he took the lead and said, I will do it. Can you help me? Can you all come along with me and do it along with me? So people saw he's genuine and started believing him. And they believed him and worked with him. So that story was covered in a lot of media. A really impressive story. See if you can get it on video on YouTube. So this another young reporter started interviewing him, and so he asked him. First question this reporter had in mind: why should you do it? I mean, you are a nobody. You have nothing to do with municipality. You're a nobody. You're not even like some rich guy or something. Then this is the answer. If not me, then who? If I don't do it, everybody says it's somebody else's problem, right? Then the problem will never get solved. In fact, most problems are of that kind in reality. Whenever you see potholes on the roads, whatever it is, you always say government, government, government. But everybody says government, therefore nothing gets done. But who is government here? Government is just you and me, like our representative sitting there, as inert and as casual as you and me. Therefore, government is like that. If people are like this proactive, government also will be to the extent proactive because government is only a reflection of us. Okay, so one of the first things, like a condition for a successful person, is taking 100% responsibility of one's own fate and future. Right. In this case, this boy took responsibility not only of not even his personal welfare or future or career. He is taking responsibility for something even greater than that, some public cause, right, like a social problem. right? But his response is his responsibility. That's actually that's a play of words. And response means, right? Responsibility means controlling your response. Another thing is they don't wait for opportunities, right? They just create them. So let us look at another nice story. There was this lady called Jana, right? She is very fond of singing. And in her younger days, she took lessons, singing lessons, and got a job in a local country club close to her where she lived. And she also wanted to become a lyric writer and recording artist. And she also wanted to like write songs, sing songs, record them, make albums, and sell them. This was the idea. So with that idea, and she moved to a big city and tried this for many years, and nothing happened. So nobody would buy her CDs. No company would sponsor her CDs. All right. So she got very dejected. It's like a dead end for her. After years of trying it out, she got back to her place. This is a problem that a lot of us will be facing in the sense you try to get into some career, right? Doesn't work out, right? So then what do? That the kind of job you wanted you may not get, right? Or not immediately. Then what do you do? So one principle that is again explained very often in this motivation literature is whatever you want to become, you become that inside first, right? Whatever you become inside becomes reality outside. So because for anybody, what is inside you is the one that is going to come outside tomorrow and express itself out in your actions and create your life, create your career, and so on. So first you need to become whatever you want to become. You should become that inside. That means in this case, this lady want to become a singer. So then start singing. What is stopping you? Right. So she stopped looking for opportunity. She began to create her opportunity. So how do you do that? She began to sing wherever she can. If she goes to a party and somebody says, "Oh, this girl sings well. Can you sing a song?" Instead of doing drama, no, I don't sing. No, she just starts singing. So in living rooms and schools, she would go to schools and say, "I'm right. I like to sing. No, I'm a singer, and can I sing for your students?" Even if a bunch of students say no, some a lot of schools say no. There will be some school which will say yes. So she kept knocking on doors, right, singing on streets. Because if she's good at singing, she's passionate about singing, she should keep on doing it day in and day out. Because that's her identity. So she wrote her own songs. She began singing in churches, right, and once after her church singing session, one old lady came and said, "I really liked your songs. In fact, sometime when you think of, can you just record it for me on a cassette tape and give it?" She thought that's a good thing, and they recorded not only just one cassette, but recorded lots of made a lot of copies of her cassettes. She started selling them. She and her husband started selling them like near churches. So that went on for some time, and slowly she started becoming popular. And after a few years, let us fast forward to future, right? And there's good response from people. She started selling cassettes of her own songs. Very soon, she started a company called Keynote Concerts, which gives more than 50 motivational concerts a year. So it's not just for entertainment. These musical concerts are also supposed to motivate people, inspire people. And then she starts another company called Relatively Famous Records. She recorded for top singers, sold lakhs of CDs of the recording, which is quite successful. She's not only successful herself, she could give livelihood to a lot of other people because there are two companies and both doing very well. So in this case, again, nobody gave her any job. She's not even waiting for any job. She created her job or whatever her career, right? Every step of the way. Okay. Third quality is they're constant learners. Learning doesn't mean just reading books, but what are constantly working on their craft and perfecting it, improving it, taking feedback from experts, but they're all the time improving themselves. All right, they never sit on their laurels and take rest. So source of knowledge could be books, motivational, informational, right? Courses, online, offline, internships, lectures, meetings, training sessions, whatever it is, wherever you can learn something and improve yourself, that they grab the opportunity. And these days, everybody can be an Eklavya because you have the internet and so many free knowledge resources. If you want to learn, if you want to build yourself, right, expand your capacities, and there's so many sources these days. So nobody is stopping you. And thing is, in the current century, say compared to 19th century, 20th century, the current century particularly, knowledge is precious. Because in 19th century there was an industrialized society, it was industrialized economy, right? Whereas in the later half of 20th century, we began the transition to a knowledge-based economy. So now knowledge is precious, because now at the end of any project, right? Even us, we try to get some IP. IP means intellectual property, knowledge, because knowledge is like money, like gold. Okay, so those who know, those who have a lot of knowledge, a lot of expertise, a lot of skills and competence, they are valuable, and the market will run after them and hire their services. So therefore, it makes a lot of sense to improve oneself and improve one's knowledge constantly. So here I would like to quote Peter Drucker. In the future, there will be no poor countries. There will be only ignorant countries, because ignorance and poverty go hand in hand, particularly in the modern economy. So there is a need to really improve one's knowledge base. Peter Drucker is, by the way, called the father of modern management. There are a lot of books that give this kind of training or exposure perspective. And my personal favorites is, for example, this book by Jack Canfield called The Success Principle. It's a pretty big book, but wonderful kind of a manual of success. This guy has taken from many sources and looked at many aspects of success and life in general, right? And given a very comprehensive account of how to deal with these aspects of life and live a happy and successful and a fulfilling life. It's really wonderful reading. So then Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Effective people are people who get things done, who don't just talk but get things done. And he says habits. He doesn't say principles or habit, because there's certain things these people do habitually. They're just used to it, right? And therefore they become successful. It's there in their DNA. It's there in their blood. They automatically end up doing things in a certain way, and therefore they are quite successful. This book was sold 30 million copies all over the world. There's huge following all over the world, and translated into many world languages. I'll just give one idea from this book. One of the very first things he says is every individual has 2 circles. One is a circle of concern and a circle of influence. Right now, circle of influence means where your word will matter, or you have a say. If you do, you can have an influence. You can tell people, talk to people, and get something done. And obviously, that circle will be small, because if, let's say, you're a student, your circle of influence could be your family or a few friends or maybe your class. Not if you're a class rep or something. And that's where the boundaries end. But circle of concern, you could be concerned about everybody in the world. You could be concerned about India's future, concerned about the whole state, concerned about what's happening to COVID, all over the world, concerned about Africa and poverty, and that global warming, and so on and so forth. So point is, obviously, the circles are very different. Your circle of influence is usually very small. Circle of concern could be very big. But point is, in case of successful people, these 2 circles are the same. All right, at least they're almost the same, because they know that, okay, I have concern about all these things, big things in the world, but I have no control over them. So I better focus on things that I can control, and they completely focus on their circle of influence and keep on working intensely on the circle of influence. Whatever they can do within circle of influence, they do completely without any let up, without any holding back. And because of that kind of an action, the circle of influence slowly grows, right? And maybe at some point it will become equal to circle of concern. They'll be able to have huge, bigger and bigger impact over larger and larger parts of society and the world, right? That's how you change the world. So this distinction very often we don't have. We feel we keep on people, and you see people keep on arguing about, right? Which is a better cricket team, India or England, or how to solve COVID problem in the world, how to solve problem of poverty in the world. What a big question where you and me have no control. What's the point in these arguments, right? You focus on things which you can control, and there you make an impact, make a change. So this is the emphasis that he gives. It's one of the ideas that comes in this book. Rashmi Bansal, she's covered the success stories of lots of Indian entrepreneurs. People who are doing socially relevant work, social reformers. She's written many books. This is one of those books. The magic of thinking big. This guy, basically one of the key ideas in this book is, when you think big, when you have big ideas, of course you need to back it up with some plan. automatically that attracts attention, attracts help, attracts resources, right? And if you are genuine about it, that will automatically carry some weightage. So think big, don't pitch very low. That's one of the ideas and key ideas in that book. You should read that book. It's very interesting. And take, for example, Bill Gates' Road Ahead. I mean, this guy had such a huge vision. This book is all about how computing can change the world. It's written really long ago. Or Cosmos, Carl Sagan's Cosmos. I mean, I think this book is something that every young individual should read very early on in life, because it really gives such a perspective on human life and nature and our position in the universe and our position on planet Earth. Really wonderful reading. You should look at that. These kinds of books really change your life. They have a serious impact on life, and one can equip oneself, strengthen oneself, develop oneself with the help of books like that. Okay, then there are risk takers. Because progress occurs when individuals decide to come out of their comfort zone. So we are used to working within certain orbit, within a circle, and then they're comfortable there and will never want to get out of that, because that means getting out means there is pain, there is risk, you can be shamed, you can fail, people will laugh at you, and so on. So people don't like that. But that's exactly how you're going to make progress and make it big. So this nice success story of a guy called Jeff Arch. This is also described in Jack Canfield's book. So this guy is actually professionally a karate school teacher. So like a really small time guy, middle class individual. And once he wanted to make a movie because he was listening to this motivational tapes by a motivational speaker called Anthony Robbins or Tony Robbins. And in that talk, the speaker says, you have to dream bigger, because what happens in life is settle at some level, and we don't want to go beyond that. But this guy says, no, always dream, try to go beyond, dream bigger. All right. And he says, what should I do? And he always wanted to make a movie, want to write a script for a movie. So he thought about it and then wrote a script for the movie called Sleepless in Seattle. Some of you might have seen the movie, but so he thought about that and written the script and showed it to a few people. People discouraged. He said, no, there's so many love stories, so many romance movies, and this is just one more romance film. It's not going to fly, and don't do this. So it's a big risk. But he took a risk and went around with the screenplay and was able to sold it for $250,000, $50,000 in 3 months, right? And then finally the movie was made, and it had Oscar nomination, and it really catapulted the careers of Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan in this movie. It's a big hit. Movie is a major hit. So point is, a karate school teacher, decides to make a movie and takes the idea seriously instead of saying laughing it off, right? So that's one example. Also, they learn from mistakes. It's not that everything is hunky dory just because you have a big idea, you decide to take risks. Doesn't mean everything will work out very smoothly. There's a lot of struggle. So when you make mistakes and you get feedback from the world, from life, from other people, there are ways of responding to it. You can become demoralized and stop trying anything in future. You can get angry with them because they said something bad, or no response at all. Don't do anything. Don't change yourself. But you can take the feedback and put it to good use, right? You can see if there's any objective essence in it. Is there any point in it? The other saying something meaningful. Okay, can check it against facts to see if the feedback is correct, or ask somebody else. If many people are saying same thing, then you are doing something wrong. So you take corrective action. Then the habit of walking extra mile. This is very important. There's a writer called Napoleon Hill who keeps emphasizing this point. To really don't succeed in life. This habit is about the habit of doing more than what is expected of you. Okay, so for example, in traditional Sanskrit literature, there is a distinction between 3 kinds of students, right? Uttama, Madhyama, and Adama. Right? Adama is a student. If you give him some work, him or her some work, they do half of it and leave the rest, because they're lazy. Middle Madhyama student will do the work, that given work perfectly, and that's all. That's all there is. The Uttama person not only does the work properly and does something more. Maybe if it's a term paper on a topic, they read something else and write some extra stuff. So this walking the extra mile can really take people places. So this is an interesting example, again given in this book, Master Key to Riches by Napoleon Hill. This actually happened. So there's this shopping mall, a departmental store, and one day in Pittsburgh, one day an old woman walked into the store, and usually very often you see right in shopping malls and stores, so the customer walks in and all the salespeople will be sitting in some corner and chit chatting, right, before attending to the customer. For example, Gandhi said, "Customer is the king," but usually that doesn't always happen in real world, in real life. So a lot of people were neglecting this lady, but one salesman saw her, right, and attended to her, came to her, and asked, offered a seat, gave her a piece of cloth, to kind of dry her hair because it was raining outside that time, and gave her some coffee or something like that. Then, so he asked her if she wanted to buy something. She said, "No, I'm just waiting for my car, and I just walked in because it's raining outside." In spite of that, she's not even a customer. He gave all this help. So he went out of the way, right, compared to his job duties as a salesman, and helped this lady. It turned out that this woman is actually the mother of an American industrialist called Andrew Carnegie, right? And this lady saw that this guy is good, has good mindset, right? He's helpful, and he goes out of the way to get a job done. That's a very important quality for anybody to be successful. To get the job done, you have to go out of the way. So this lady, tells about this chap recommends this chap to his son, Andrew Carnegie, and this man was given a huge position in another country where they were asked to start a similar shopping mall in another country. So that's what this habit of going extra mile can do. Then how to deal with rejection? Rejection is very common. Right, you have to be expecting it. It's likely to happen. Um, so then let us see what some people said. Sylvester Stallone, the Hollywood actor, he says, "I take rejection as someone blowing a bugle in my ear to wake me up and get going rather than retreat." If somebody says you're rejected, then that's what gets him more excited. Right? He gets up and marching forward even faster. So there are a lot of people who are, people who make it very big. You think they're all somehow, they are born with golden spoon, silver spoon, and all that. But people struggle a lot, put up with a lot of rejection before they make it big. This guy called John Creasy, a British mystery writer, he received 743 rejection slips for his manuscript before he sold his first book. And that kind of a person, you would normally think that he's good for nothing, he's a bad writer. But over 40 years, he wrote 600 books, right, in 28 different pseudonyms, because people just go by the name and reject, right? So he kept on changing his name, went by different pseudonyms, and wrote lots of books. But 600 books is quite prodigious. Okay, so that's what can happen if you don't let a rejection, stop you. Okay, so all these things are qualities and habits at level of individual function. But if you want to succeed, nobody can succeed all by themselves alone. You always have to work with others. Right? It will always be a group activity. Now, how do you work with others? So here we'll group others into three categories. Those who are above you, those who are your peers, and those who are kind of below in the sense where you are senior, where you and they are your juniors. So the first kind of person that you need, it's good to have, is one has to have a mentor. Okay, a person who is wise and competent in your field of interest, right, and who can guide you, give you advice, and obviously you need to make sure is trustworthy and a good person, right, and he has genuine concern for you, and you admire and trust him. Great examples of Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda, but these are really classic examples. Or in sports domain, like Gopi Chand and Sindhu, they're a great mentor and Sishya kind of a combination. So it'll be nice to have somebody like that, because you need often somebody where you just approach and check with somebody who you trust and admire, whether you're doing everything right and something is going wrong, and how do you approach the problem and things like that. So first thing is you need to have a mentor. A mentor is somebody who is like kind of more senior to you. Then at level of your same level, you need to have some kind of a peer group. It is a set of like-minded individuals with shared goals and on the same journey in the same boat. Right? These people will not only inform each other, enlighten each other, inspire, and help and motivate each other. So they can approach each other for feedback, and counsel. And in this process, try to avoid people who are very pessimistic, who believe that nothing is going to happen, nothing is going to change, and what's the point in trying? Don't do it, yaar, arey, yaar. Right? Avoid that kind of very dark, negative people. Right? Try to create a small kind of nucleus of people who have similar thinking, similar mindset, like-minded, and who have a positive attitude towards things, and who can cheer you up when you're feeling down, feeling low. Right? That's kind of, it's called a mastermind group. Now, it can be just a general support group, a group of friends, but also it can be something professional, where together you're doing something interesting. So Helen Keller, right? Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. So example of that kind of mastermind group, for example, is Bill Gates and Paul Allen. Bill Gates is more the business person who knows the commercial, has a commercial eye, where there is a business opportunity, you can spot it very quickly. Paul Allen is more a techie. He's a technical guy. They were classmates, so friends from for a long time. And so they were the ones who started Microsoft in 1975. Another great example, which is also a true story, is there is see this movie called October Sky, or some of you might have already seen it. There's 4 or 5 boys in a small village in West Virginia state in US. This happened in 1957, 1958. They decide to build a rocket, and they throughout the movie they show the struggles these boys face in building a rocket, because such a backward village. We're talking about 1950s, where nobody has even seen a rocket or nobody has even heard of how to build a rocket. So with a lot of struggle, they build a rocket, and the whole movie is all about their failures, their failed experiments in this process. At the end of the movie, they succeed in building the rocket, and that rocket gets a first prize in a science fair uh, at the national level in US. It's a lovely, very inspiring movie, and so that's an example of a mastermind group working together. So create a team. Next level is a team where there'll be juniors, right? Where you will be playing the role of a leader, a team leader, and you have you define a common goal for the entire team, and your entire team will be working towards that goal. And ideally, the team player should be humble, that is willing to learn, willing to accept mistake when they make it, and not just argue their way through. And they should be hungry for progress, passionate about getting the job done, and they should be competent. I mean, otherwise, what's the point? So these qualities of team player were described by Patrick Lencioni. A great example of team building is this movie Lagan. You might have seen this, right? It's a fictional story, but still it's an excellent example of how out of nothing, right, a team leader builds a great team simply by the force of inspiration. Right? In the movie, the team members on the hero side are all right. Somebody from a backward caste, somebody is even has physical handicap, has polio, like that. Somebody is very old to play a sport like cricket, which is requires a great stamina. But because it's a life and death situation for them, right? They have to play the game and win the game for the entire village, right? So he motivates them all to come together and give their best and get the job done. I heard somewhere that this movie is shown in some of the IIMs as a great example of team building. I don't know how far it is true, but it makes sense. Within a team, for the team to be successful, trust is most important. That's the cement, that's the glue which links all the team members to work together. Right? And their team must be willing to complement each other. And first, for trust, the great factor is one has to deliver on the promises. Whatever you say, if you do, right, that will create trust among the team members. Other crucial areas, right? First thing is balancing work and relaxation. Because succeeding in life doesn't mean it is doing well in some job and making money and getting some awards and all that. What you do outside that work zone is as important as what you do in the work zone, because ultimately it's all life. What you do in the office, what you do at home, is all part of a single unified life. So you cannot separate this as work and this is life and try to create some balance. Because what you do at home will reflect what you do at work and vice versa, right? So Stephen Covey in his book, he talks about, towards the end of the book, he talks about the need for relaxation. And he gives a very interesting story of a guy who is trying to cut wood with a blunt saw. So apparently this guy is trying to cut wood with a saw and been trying to cut that log for a long time. And the saw is completely blunted out. So somebody sees that and said, and observes, like, why are you cutting like that? The saw is already blunted. Why don't you take time out, sharpen the saw first, and then go back to your cutting process? He says, no, I'm already late. I'm short of time. I have no time to sharpen the saw. So this is what a lot of us do, even in life, because if you don't sharpen your saw, the saw of your mind, the saw of your body, saw of your energies, right, and you keep on trying to make some progress in work, it's not going to work. And very often, I don't know if you have had this experience, you're very stressed out about your studies and exams, and you keep on sitting in front of the computer, sitting in front of an open book, and hours just pass, nothing goes into your head. I don't know if you have had this experience, but it's very likely. That means the saw is not sharpened. You never took time out, you never took time for enough relaxation. So your efficiency will go down. I mean, I'm seeing even high school children put through this kind of a torture and no time for sports, no time for relaxation, just chit-chatting with friends, always studies and studies and studies, and so many tuitions and classwork in school. That's like a terrible way to progress. That's not way to live. But anyway, this is how a lot of families work these days. So one has to take time out, not only as a student, even later on when you get into a job. You have to consciously make time for relaxation, a healthy kind of relaxation. Spend time with family, make that quality time, enjoyable time, or meditate, or do yoga, or trekking, or sports, whatever it is, right? And that's how you balance, right? And when you go back to work the following day, you'll be even more efficient. You'll be able to get more in a shorter time. Now, family is a very important department for life because everybody has a family and nobody is living in a forest these days, right? So, family is a fortress from which you fight the battle of life. Everybody is fighting a battle in life. When you go out in the world, usually it's a hostile world. I mean, there is, right? Not everybody is out there to just come and help you and give you all your wishes. So you need to fight it out. So to fight that battle, you need to have a strong family support. Everybody, it's not just women, not just men. Everybody needs a strong family and a supportive family. And in the family, members have to support each other and help each other grow. But sometimes what happens is the oldest person in the family tries to dictate and boss over the others and tell everybody what they should do, how they should live, and all that. That creates friction and a lot of unhappiness. And I'll give you an example. There's a family that I know. The father wants daughter to do exactly the same job as what he's doing. Daughter doesn't like it, but she's not able to convince her father. Right now, wife is a writer, but the husband doesn't like the wife to write. The husband has his own ideas about what his wife should do. So a lot of unhappiness in the family. Whereas a very simple solution would be the husband understands wife's interest and allow her to do whatever she wants, right? And both parents understand what the child wants and let her do whatever she wants instead of father trying to force her to do whatever he thinks is good for her. And in the process, each person should help the other consciously, right? To help them do whatever they're trying to do better. Then everybody will begin to like the others in the family. Their trust will grow because everybody will now know that the other person is there only to help them do whatever they want to do, right? Not impose their ideas. Anyway, there's a lot more to say about this, but I'll skip maybe for reasons of time. And health is obviously most important. In India, we have this concept of dharma. Right? If you want to fulfill your dharma, your duties, and whatever, you have to have a very healthy base. So healthy body is obviously necessary. Healthy body is what will give us a healthy mind. Now here also it's a question of habit, because exercise, for example, right? It could be a question of habit. If you are used to exercising, then after that you do effort. Initially, it could be a lot of, right? You need to use a lot of will to get it done. And if you are regular in your habits, then to the extent automatically health is taken care of. If you're irregular, then everything becomes a struggle. Right? Exercise, if exercise is boring, you get into sports. And I know one family member who has been playing tennis all his life. He's now 85 or 86. He's fit as a fiddle. I mean, 85, right? Amazing, because that's because he's been playing tennis all his life. Drink water, visualize your old age. In fact, there's some insurance companies are playing this game these days. They're using some image processing. They'll show how a young individual will look when that person becomes old. Right? So that makes a person take their old age more seriously and do the right thing in their youth, so that they don't neglect and assume take things for granted. An attitude towards money. I mean, I'm not a financial expert, so I can't talk about money and all that. But generally, in Indian ethos, it's very bad to talk about money. In fact, in family, a lot of families don't even encourage kids to talk about money because no, why are you talking about money? And a negative attitude towards money can kind of block money from coming to you. Everybody needs money. I mean, obviously, money is what, right, and it's big kind of power, big strength that you can have. But negative attitudes can block money from coming to you. Some attitudes like that are, and money is the root of all evil. It's not totally not fair at all. It depends on how you use it. It's you who make it evil or a positive thing, right? Don't hanker for money. But money is needed. So you need to earn money and then grow money, right? Wealth in itself is not a bad thing. So if you are rich, you are bad. So some people think all rich people are bad, which is obviously quite absurd. And another thing is rich people become rich by looting the poor. This is also not necessarily true. So there are all this attitude towards money that will create a bad relationship with money for the individual. Whereas a positive attitude towards money could be, money is generated by creative and diligent effort. So by putting in that kind of effort, you can make money, and it's totally good thing, right? It's not a bad thing at all. And if you serve others, fulfill social need, money will come. So basically, if you have skills which will fulfill a need that is out there in the world, fulfill a social need, right? Then automatically society will pay you. That's it. It could be singing, it could be anything, right? If you're making great food, making great designs for interior decoration, whatever it is. If you have a skill that fulfills a need out there, producing oxygen at a low cost very quickly. If you can do it right now, again, and society will pay, run after you and pay you. So discover the hidden talent that helps you serve society. So obviously, everybody cannot do anything, but everybody has a talent, and that talent can be used to solve some problem in the society. And if you do that, then automatically you will get money. So here again, like to quote two quotations. One is by this Bob Proctor. He says, you must begin to understand, therefore, that the present state of your bank account, your health, your social life, your position at work is nothing more than the physical manifestation of your previous thinking. If you sincerely wish to change or improve your results in the physical world, you must change your thoughts and you must change them immediately. This is a very important idea that shows up in many of these books. That is, you change your thoughts, you will change your life. You change attitudes, you change your living conditions. That same idea comes even from William James, an American psychologist of 19th century. He says the greatest discovery of our generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind. As you think, so shall you be. Simply by changing your attitudes, you will change your relationship with things. That will change your behavior. That will change your trajectory of life and maybe make you more happy. And get you to a better place in life. I recommend you to watch this movie called The Founder. The story of this guy who started McDonald's company, or this chain of restaurants. So this guy, I forgot his name. He keeps listening to these motivational tapes, and one of the tapes plays this quotation: "The greatest discovery of a generation," and that really spurs him to do something out of the way, and he starts going looking for opportunities for progress, and that's how he starts this company. You watch that movie, I think you'll like it. So finally, So you began with yourself, right? You found a goal in life, a kind of a major definite purpose in life, and you began developing the qualities that necessary to pursue that kind of a quest, right, efficiently, effectively. In the process, you took help from your seniors, right? You had created this kind of a mastermind group, a peer group, and you created a team, and together you were able to, you learned how to deal with, have a great family, how to take care of your health, etc., etc. Now it's a time to society. So ultimately, all this glory that you have already won, right, wouldn't have been possible without society's inputs, right? So therefore, there's a need to give back, or you could be serving society all along, right? Because that's how you're even able to come to this point. Okay, so there is a dynamic, healthy equilibrium between individual and society. So individuals, by becoming free and finding their own destiny and their purpose in life, grow and reach a point, and therefore, right, they must give back to society, and therefore there is a kind of a give and take between society and a healthy equilibrium between society. If a large number of us are able to do that, then the country will have a great future. Because what happened is, traditionally for many centuries, India's society was very orthodox, where the individual was not given a free play. Everything is controlled in the name of tradition. And this is, a woman has to be like this, a son has to be like this, a man has to be like this, and you cannot cross the seas, you cannot do this. And if you are born to a certain family, you can only do this, but you cannot do that. So when the individual is not given freedom, not given an opportunity to find his or her purpose in life, they won't grow. When individuals won't grow, obviously the society cannot grow, the country won't grow. It's just logic, right? So we lived like that for centuries. Only now there is a growing individualism in the country. So individuals are able to grow, and therefore society is also reaping that benefits, right? So more and more people live a purposeful life where they are conscious of their purpose, they found their purpose and living accordingly. Naturally, the country progress. So Jai Hind and thank you. So if you have any questions, we can discuss that. Hi, any questions?
No, sir. It was a great. You covered a lot of things actually. In fact, right from the importance of exploration, like not following a fixed path, just you have to take a risk in life, and then the importance of maintaining the balance in life, and also taking time to relax. Everything is like with good examples. So it was very motivating. So one of the examples that a very attractive example is that saw example. Like unless you sharpen your saw, you won't be productive. So that I like very much. That was a very good example.
So that is mentioned in Stephen Covey's book. I think you should, this is a great book to read to everybody. Please see if you can get hold of a copy of that and read. Now I see that rule getting violated big time among school children. I don't know what people achieve by that. Your coaching centers, for example, right? Day starts from, I don't know, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. or something. Goes on until 11 a.m. What will come out of it, I don't know. Okay, that's complete violation of that basic principle.
Right. Now it seems creativity is not a natural phenomena. It is like a part of a course kind of thing. Nowadays, it is a mandatory condition. Okay, children has to be creative. So we create something. The creativity is forced upon them. So that is what.
Yeah. So okay, anybody else other than Sandeep? Any other questions, comments? What you feel about it?
So personally, I feel the best part was that most professors would push towards, you stick to your degree, you stick to your whatever discipline you have chosen. But this was refreshing. Towards the end, you mentioned, discover your own talent, discover how you can give back to society in your own personal way, in your own creative way. So that was very refreshing to hear from a professor.
Otherwise, life will be miserable. And if all the time somebody tells you what you should do, there is no end to it. And you will also become like that, and you will tell your child what they should do. tomorrow because it just becomes a tradition. Everybody will start living like zombie. Right? Nobody thinks for himself. Nobody has any feelings for themselves. Right? It's always packaged. Everything is packaged, predetermined. I mean, the country lived like that for centuries. If there is one reason why we were so there's such a huge decline in the country, it is because of that kind of a lifestyle. All right. In the name of some tradition, some holy book, everybody is controlled. I mean, this is what everybody should do. You can invoke whatever rule, social, religious, whatever. Nobody has any freedom. What kind of a life is, what kind of society is that? Obviously, the society will be very poor and weak. We were poor and weak for a long time. And all the countries that you see great progress now, the first world countries, you look at the social culture, it's it's strongly encouraged to find your own path. It's kind of a zombie-like control. You don't see that. Even the new generation will rebel if you try to control them. Like
Exactly, sir. In fact, one of the reasons why, I mean, personally, I feel one of the reasons why India is not, Indian parents always focus on only two fields. Either you go engineering or you go medical. So I for one feel one of the reasons why India is not creatively diverse is because we are not
Yeah.
engaging in activities that are diverse. We are engaging in just two narrow areas.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. So it's not only diversity for diversity's sake. Do what you like, right? If you actually like engineering, go for it. See, even in engineering, what do people do? Okay, I'll try for computer science. Naito, I'll go for EE. Naito, I'll go for mechanical. What is that choice? In fact, I also did the same thing like a sheep, long ago. But later on, I found books, for example, books on civil engineering. There's a book called Structures or How Things Fall Down or Don't Fall Down. When I read that book, I said, civil is so interesting. How come nobody told me about it? Why this zombie-like culture where everybody is asked to do only one thing? Where is that rule coming from? I mean, you don't have to be a genius to understand it's such an absurd way of looking at life and career. You just look at the Western world, look at any of the developed countries. People do such variety of things. Actually, forget about development. Even India now, the current generation, are breaking free from this kind of a rigid mold and doing so many interesting things very creatively. Right? And the culture has, I'm really thankful to the millennials because the culture has changed radically in one generation. From my generation to your generation, it is like a sea change in the way things work, way people think. Right? I just hope that culture consolidates and people go on like that for some more generations. For obviously two reasons, they will be happy in the first place. Right? Otherwise, what will happen is people who live like zombies, just fixed formula and never question anything, never ask for anything. When they're in the 40s and 50s, then if they wake up with the so-called midlife crisis, then it's too late. Actually, it is not too late, but will they have the willpower to get back and spring back and then take radical action? Because, for example, this guy, the guy who started Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFI, he was a failure all his life until his retirement practically. Right? And in the 60s, he tried this one last thing. He was very good at making some kind of chicken. Okay, he tried to make a business out of it, and that became a big international chain. This was in the 60s. So it's never too late. But point is, that is this transition only you can make as an individual. It's your problem. Nobody can do it for you. And if anybody pretends to do it for you, people tell you, Kanna, you don't know, let me listen to me and all that. I mean, they might have a valid point, but ultimately you alone can do it. And sometimes what you do might give you negative results. You'll feel bad, but there is no shortcut, right? There is no other way. You have to try out something on your own to have a great life. There's no other way. Yeah, I'm seeing people in the final year, like this guy who is such a brilliant guy, one of the toppers in the class. In his final semester, he has only one goal, to get a job in some machine learning company. Even if it pays minimum, it's okay. He's not does anything. His confidence is completely destroyed. He's pitching at such a low level. I don't know why has it happened. What has what has brought you to this point? See, an young individual, when they come out of their degree, right, leave the gate portals of the college, they should feel as if they own the world. I mean, the whole world is waiting for their conquest. That's how they should feel, totally confident and happy, full of energy and enthusiasm. But that's not what I'm seeing in final years very often. So where are things going wrong? I think one problem is everything is thought out for you instead of you thinking out your own thoughts and gently making attempts to make your own path. Everything is laid out for you, which is, I think, quite pathetic. Right? If people say Indians are not creative, not innovative, that's because we were never asked to be innovative. Starts with this. If you're innovative about how to live your life, that will show in your career. If you're not innovative, you're living like a zombie. Obviously, that will show in your career also, because you cannot separate career and life. Career is one part of life, one aspect of life. And it is possible to have a very fulfilling, well-rounded life, right? Very fruitful career and happy family, good health and everything, provided individual concern takes that first step. All the things that I talked about in this. I mean, I think I covered some major elements, but depending upon interest, you can start reading on your own and you talk to people, right? But you begin that quest if in case you haven't already begun that, and you will find your life really interesting. And suddenly things start opening up. You won't be at the receiving end of things. That's what I'm saying.
I think the present generation, everybody is just afraid of, as you said, right? We should take risks, but I think everybody's afraid of taking risks. Most of us feel like if we fail once, then that's it, that's the end to it, which is not the case.
It is not the case.
I mean, if I remember what my uncle told me once, he always told me, until you are 35, it's the age to learn. Don't rush after a job. Learn as much as you can.
Hmm.
So that's one thing that stuck with me. I took that in the terms, experiment with as many things as you can, because that's the best way to learn.
Yeah, I'll tell you a different example from my uncle. I had an uncle who used to constantly call me useless fellow. Right? I was in high school at that time. He say, useless fellow, why don't you study for IAS and become like that some family member, distant family member? And he has so much respect, and everybody respects him. He's a collector and so on. The uncle who used to admonish me, he himself is like a BA pass guy, right? Who flunked BA many times. The point is, if you yourself don't have that kind of a class, right? Why do you demand it out of children, next generation, right? So I've seen this kind of a drama for too long in Indian social setup. And like you said, what you said is
Yeah,
true.
that's in my family as well.
Yeah, and everybody will have an opinion about what the other guy's son should do or daughter should do. Why do you care? You're not supporting them.
I think when it comes to family, sometimes the factor is कि they want, in a way, they are pushing off क्या कहते हैं, what they wanted to do on us.
Yeah,
So
why? What
that
for?
they at least get to see it happen through something.
Yeah, but you're not born to fulfill their desires. And you're there for yourself.
Exactly.
And all in the name of honor, all sorts of strange ideas. I don't get it. I don't even understand these ideas anymore. Anybody else? I want really people to kind of come out and speak freely. Okay, this is not a class. I'm not giving you grades or anything.
Sir, I just you were talking about like the development, like how millennials have like uh,
Yeah,
changing and all.
understand.
No, I just thought of a sentence I saw somewhere. I think like even when I speak like some things that seem like crazy to my grandparents, he says like, how can you say that and stuff like that. So I feel like they are afraid of what we think because they blindly followed everything else. So
Yeah, they better be afraid because the new generation is thinking for itself. Until before, nobody thought for themselves. Because all the thoughts came from like parampara, right? All thoughts were inherited until then. For the first time, the new generation is thinking for itself. So they'll be afraid naturally. I've heard this from a friend After Einstein's death, in his Princeton office, they dug up some of his old papers. And recently they found some more papers about a few years ago. And what he said about Indians are quite startling. Apparently, he said something like they neither want anything nor try for anything. That was his observation on Indians. He didn't even come to India, I guess. Based on Indians that he saw around him. That's what he thinks of as Indians, right? We never want anything. We don't try to work for anything. We don't try for. There's no aspiration for anything. Because we are all the time told to be contented, to be like vegetables. Just do the minimum. Just live like subsistence level. Live like a vegetable. Just make some money, have families, and make children and die. That is our highest ideal of life. That's how you are asked to live. Any deviation from that, you are mocked at, you are punished, right? Whatever in the name, in very lofty terms, of course, but very clearly the boundaries are drawn. This is what you must do. And the millionaires are saying, hell with you. And they're not even saying it is doing whatever they want. I'm not saying do something brash or risky or dangerous, but have your own thoughts, have your own dreams, right? Not your parents' dreams, not your uncle's dreams, aunt's dreams, or even your siblings' dreams. It's your dreams. It's very specific to you, special to you. And the spirit of cooperation, right? Where people with similar dreams come together and work for a common goal. And there can be anything. I was just talking to one guy today, who is a lawyer, and apparently he's an IT Kharagpur BTech. Now he's a lawyer, and is a doubly graduate. See, that's crazy, but that's great. I mean, you follow your passion, and yeah, what somebody said is very true. First 10 years of life, right after your BTech, experiment, try many things. Like after I did BTech in IT in Dublin, long ago. I didn't like W that much because I felt it's too dry, and I like something about biology, but I didn't like biology, the mugging aspect of biology, just memorization aspect. So then I found this thing called biomedical engineering. I went into biomed. Then I went to area called neural networks. I found that a bit dry. Then I went into medical school because real brain I thought is more interesting than this kind of a mathematical modeling. So I tried many things, kind of very meandering progress before I landed this current IIT job. And I'm not better off, worse off because of that, and no regrets. Because all those little curves and detours and meandering was absolutely necessary to to understand subject the way I'm understanding now. If I'm too straitjacketed, I wouldn't have had this kind of understanding. But it worked for me. It's good for me. I'm totally happy about it. So I mean, it's your life. You're free to claim your freedom, which is supposed to be yours, and experiment what is there, right? I mean, I know any number of people. I have another one cousin. She got studied well, got a degree. After marriage, she stopped studying, didn't do work for a long time. She wanted to always study more and do higher studies and make it big. But somehow, get used to the family life and just children and all that. And middle of life, in 40s or late 30s, suddenly wake up and say, oh, I should have done this, I have regrets. What's the point? Barriers will be much higher at that age, right? So point is, you should have your dreams very concrete, very clear, and take the trouble to pursue them. It will be well worth it in the long run. In India now, even villages, you see people doing some things so beautiful, so wonderful. I mean, in some Rajasthan village, Rajasthan is a dry place, right? And in one village, they're sick of their water problems, year after year, and then slowly learned some new techniques and converted the whole village and the surroundings totally green. No more water problems, constant sources of water, all recharged. How is it possible? Simply because they are proactive. They stop accepting their current situation and then take a step forward and do something out of the way, get out of the comfort zone, and then they are happy. if you content to be in the comfort zone, there is only unhappiness. You keep on wringing your hands and curse the heavens, curse your fate, curse the planetary positions. Nothing will happen. You take that step forward, things will suddenly start opening up. The same for everybody. The same principles for everybody all over the world. Anybody? Any other questions? I keep on talking about because I'm this is very close to my heart. But there's no point. I don't want to bore you, right?
Good afternoon, Professor. Actually, I really like your talk because it gave a very refreshing view on things, and it's very nice to see a lot of faculty kind of talking on these lines. Because one of the things that you mentioned about money, the attitude towards money, right? I
Yeah.
think that was totally contrarian to the Indian view, and actually, otherwise, entrepreneurs are actually kind of looked down upon, or business are looked down upon as some kind of a vultures or something, which I think needs to
Yeah.
change, and which I think is happening right now because they are definitely creating employment and they're doing more than just basically wealth creation for themselves or something. Some people are just giving away their money also. So that take on, I would say, the mindset of people, right? So, for example, which is kind of hardwired into them in the culturally.
Mm.
I think you're hitting hard on those points that are actually being kind of hardwired into our fabric for like centuries or something. And
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of faculty come up these days openly and talk about things like this, which would not have been broached on earlier. And so I think
Yeah.
that's a very fresh take, and that makes a lot of us think because let's say a lot of people are grown up in some kind of a cultural hardwiring environment at our homes, and then
Mm.
we as in unless and until as in, some people do think and kind of go to the west and change their attitudes, but a lot
Mm.
of people do stay here and they kind of self perpetuate the same thing again and again and kind of pass it on to the next generation, which is more like chaining themselves and chaining the next generation. And
Yeah.
now people come into the campus and we hear all this stuff, and all of a sudden, basically, then you start thinking, and they're like, okay, yeah, wait a minute, this is not so bad after all. When other countries are doing it, why
Yeah.
not we or something? And
Yeah.
that way, it actually kind of, I would say, kind of, it's a bit liberating to hear something like this take from professors who have seen everything else and came back and are talking to. So that was pretty, I would say, it's like a kind of a bit of fresh air actually to breathe. Thank you.
No, no, thank you. Glad you're saying that way because let me tell you something about poverty in India. There was a time because I lived through 70s. I was like a school kid at that time. Poverty was glorified in India at some point. I mean, you won't believe that. You should read V.S. Naipaul. I don't know any of you have heard of V.S. Naipaul, Nobel laureate, Indian origin writer, but who was born in, I think, Caribbean somewhere. This guy, right, Trinidad, yes. He visited India and saw the way things work in India. He was disgusted. And the extreme poverty, extensive poverty all over the country. And people celebrate it. People think it's a holy thing to be poor, to be living on the street in rags, right? And people try to romance poverty instead of accepting it as a failure, right? As a social failure, a massive social failure, and trying to fix it, apologizing for it. People were glorifying it. So we had such nutcases, generations of nutcases. They're not individuals. They're like whole generations of nutcases. And now PM is talking a different language for the first time. He's saying it's okay to be wealthy. Right? Wealth is a good thing. And a very similar transition came even in China with, I think, Deng Xiaoping. Right? And that's when things started looking up. And obviously, money is not the only thing. Money is an essential thing in life. That's a backbone of society. How could you have a bad attitude towards it? It's like saying oxygen is bad. I mean, that's what is happening right now. We are suffering from oxygen because somewhere we neglected our facilities, our systems. So we should insist on a kind of healthy and a fair play in making money. But you cannot say money itself is bad, which is totally stupid. Like energy is bad. Because we neglected certain fundamentals of life, we became so weak. We got literally run over by foreign invaders, not because they were great or anything. Because our cultural attitudes, we slowly degrade to a point that we become like almost non-entities. We don't want to accept that because we're too proud. Cultural pride is so deep in country. We don't want to accept these basic realities of Indian life. So forget about these big questions of culture and history and all. At individual level, at least let us live better lives, happier lives, more fulfilling, right? You know, lives with welfare and all growth and all that. That's quite possible for the new generation. Little bit of reorientation is enough. You can live very happy lives. Anybody? Girls haven't said anything. Let me pick some names. Okay, Fatima, are you there? Fatima, are you there? Are you? Or Gayatri? Anybody else?
Sir, I love the talk. I would
See
love
what's yes, yeah.
to add a few points, but I have an upcoming class at 5, so I'll maybe mail.
Okay, carry on. Yeah.
But I really love the session, sir. Thank you for having this.
Okay, thanks a lot, ma. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Okay, if anybody wants to say anything, please feel free. Otherwise, we can.
Sir, I just have one more